Welcome to the Second Press podcast, a wine-ish podcast hosted by Brad Horn and Dan Kirby.
It blew people's minds. Yalumba Y Series Pinot Grigio. That theme is throughout the whole initiative, really.
Hi, Dan. Good to see you, mate. Episode 7.
Hey, Brad. How are you?
Yeah,
Episode
very
7,
well, thanks. Yeah, had
a good week.
Had a good Easter break. Hopefully, everyone else did. It's been a good start to the week. Had some good tastings and stuff. But yeah, it's good.
Hope everyone's listened to Chris Wilson's episode over the bank holiday weekend.
I had some people talk about the windmill to me, so I think people have listened to it.
Yeah, lovely stuff.
So should we bang on to the trade news, mate?
Yeah, let's dive straight into the news, yeah.
There was an article you put me in contact with, the BBC wrote, talking about a vineyard, Aylbury Vineyard in Surrey. Vineyard shares its unusual method of winemaking. What is this, mate?
So this was in the Wine Industry Digest update last week, and the headline was "Wine Sort of Vineyard Shares Its Unusual Winemaking Technique," and I was like, "Well, I'm immediately clicking this. This is one for me." And so I had a look and I skimmed through, and within the first couple of sentences of the article, it said Aylbury Vineyard, biodynamic. They're using like cow horns and doing things by lunar cycles. And what struck me as interesting about this article is that it was in the BBC. And so to a BBC audience, biodynamic is just garbage, doesn't mean anything. And it is unusual, right? And you're like, oh, we'd use cow horns and we dig it in the vineyard. And what? But in the wine trade, biodynamics as common as grape varieties like Shiraz or Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Like it's a line on a tech sheet and we're like, oh, okay, these guys are biodynamic. These guys aren't. That vineyard is fine biodynamically. That one's not. It's just a wine and a phrase and a concept of viticulture that we sort of all know.
Yep. And
regardless about whether it's, done by the lunar cycles and, all the stuff about Steiner and all that other stuff. But the fact that in a BBC, totally non-wine educated space, it's seen as an unusual viticultural technique and it's on the periphery of the industry. That just made me chuckle. And I think there are, it's really interesting as well because there's plenty of biodynamic people just in the UK.
Yeah.
So how did this one get in the BBC?
But at least it's in the BBC. At least people are talking about wine, Dan.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go down that route. And I actually like Aylbury. Their wines are pretty good.
And actually, the article was quite, if you don't know anything about biodynamics, the article was quite nicely written about the sort of viticulture and how it's good for the soil and stuff. So it was just a nice piece. But yeah, it made me chuckle that it was unusual.
I've got another one, actually, a bit more topical again. It's in Decanter. Tina Gailey wrote this article about Rory McIlroy, his 49k
oh, here we go.
wines he picked.
How much did he won the Masters, didn't he?
Yeah. So he wins 4.5 mil for winning the Masters.
4.5 mil, and he spent 50k on wine?
Yeah.
1%?
Yeah.
You'd do the same, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all would. Let us on a postcard. Would you do the same?
Yeah. What was the list? Hang on, I've got it.
You've got the list, mate.
Salon Champagne 2015. Absolutely delightful.
Yeah.
You'd go for that.
Yeah.
Domaine Le Fleuve, like Bâtard Montrachet Grand Cru. Of course you would. Like, obviously one of the top producers in Burgundy. Unbelievable. And then Chateau Lafite.
Obviously, because you can.
1990. And then just to finish with a little dessert on 89 Akem.
Yeah.
1990 Lafite and 89 Akem, sort of birthday vintage stuff.
He was born in 89.
And then he foots the bill, 50 grand for a few mates to have a little glass of wine after dinner.
And he won it again yesterday, so he can do it all again next year. What would you pick? Because he's won it again. He's got to do it again. So what would you change? One wine you've got to change, mate.
Oh, one wine. Well, if you're going to stick to classics like Burgundy and Bordeaux, then I think there's more top Bordeaux producers to pick, I think, than Burgundy. But I think that's highly controversial.
Dan, we're going to go to the interview now, mate. I've got to stop there. We're going to go to Matthew Jukes. He sat down with us.
If anyone is going to comment on the Substack, that's going to kick off, isn't it?
It's not me, mate. You said it. You said it.
But let's go to Matthew.
Enjoy this, guys. Matthew, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Really great to have you.
It's a pleasure. It's lovely to see you guys.
So Matthew, we've known each other for a while now. You sort of helped me around the tasting room. Any good wines? You're like, Brad, try that. So I always wanted to get you on the show. I've not actually got you on Wine Social. This is the first time I've ever interviewed you.
That's true. Yes, it's been a long time, but that's what tastings are all about, isn't it? Seeing people and never actually getting hold of them to chat.
Absolutely. So I want to ask you about your journey into wine, because you've literally done everything in the trade, I think, mate.
Yeah, pretty much. Funnily enough, last week was my 40th birthday in the wine business.
Wow.
So I've been around for a long time, and over that period I've done, all the disciplines one could think of.
And starting from the wine shop to where you are now, so what got you into wine? So starting in barns, in the wine shop, what got you into it?
I was always a wine lover, and I've always been quite a keen drinker at all ages. So I was happy to enjoy German Riesling when I was 7, along with other little tastes my parents would give me because they cooked dinner parties. My dad was made sort of quite a serious person in the business world, but we didn't have any cash because we came from quite a poor background. And so Mum cooked dinner parties at home rather than going out to restaurants. So she learned to cook really quite well, and Dad had to buy the wines to complement her food. And that meant he spent some cash and sort of sometimes got it right, sometimes got it wrong. And I got to taste everything because I was the miniature sommelier. And this all happened in Brussels. We lived in Brussels for 3 years when I was little.
Okay.
And we moved back to the UK. Our mum became a professional cookery teacher. So she worked with Brilliance and Cordon Bleu.
Wow, okay.
And that kind of fired up proper foodie kind of knowledge and taste, I hope. And I was a very brief member of the university fraternity, and spent a couple of months at uni before I realized I wanted to get into something slightly more exciting, i.e. booze. So I went to one of Mum's lectures at Brilliance, and there was a chap talking about wine, and I kind of knew it all. I kind of knew what he was talking about. I went up to him at the end of the lecture and said, I should really be in the wine trade, shouldn't I? I shouldn't be doing a physics degree when I'm nowhere near up to standard. And he said, yeah, you really ought to join the wine business. And there was a job going at the Barnes Wine Shop, literally live job going. So I cycled down there and was given the job on the spot. So that was April, this dates it, April the 10th, 1987. So yeah, I've started my 40th year.
Amazing.
That's amazing. It's amazing how many people start their wine on the shop floor doing a bit of retail.
Yeah.
It's just, everyone's had a go at that as part of their sort of journey into wine. I'm sure we all have.
Yeah, I think touching the bottles, feeling the bottles, selling the bottles, talking to people is still the job I do today. Nothing's really changed. It's just the sort of environment. And I spent, I'm still a restaurant buyer. I still buy for restaurants. That's been 35 years. And I'm very keen on seeing the stock consumption reports and knowing what the orders are and knowing what's selling and stock checks. I did 26 years at the Bendham restaurant as a consultant, but I still performed every single monthly stock check myself, physical. So it's about touching the bottles, it's about seeing how many are sitting there in the boxes and knowing what's moving, knowing what's stuck, not just what's selling, and why, and finding out from the sommeliers and finding out what the menus are saying. And that's the same as real life. Okay, first was the wine shop, and then it went into restaurants, and it's still very much restaurant based. So I'm a member of the wine trade, really. I'm not really a wine writer. I happen to write about wine, but that's part of my greater job as a member of the wine trade.
I always found the same when I was buying for wine. So it's really hard if you're buying for a chain of shops, and then if you're half a step disconnected from the shop floor,
yeah.
and you don't. So many wine buyers don't talk to the sales team,
yeah.
or they don't talk to the people on the shop floor. And we'd list new wines, and if one manager goes, "No, I don't like it," all the other managers would be like, "I don't like that either." And you may as well delist it tomorrow if they don't like it.
That's right.
It's impossible to sort of do what you're doing, buying for restaurants or buying for shops, and actually not get your hands on those bottles and see what's selling.
And I think that sort of chimes with how I write about wine and what I write about. So I write about wines that I can see myself talking about live, because basically I just write what I'd say. That's why my writing's quite sort of edible. I suppose I write about wines that I would like to drink myself, not just that happen to hit a price point or sort of, new in or whatever. They're all wines that I absolutely adore for whatever reason. And I can see myself pouring them for people I love and explaining why.
And I think that's important, isn't it?
Yeah. It was what fires me up every day.
And for me as well, I totally get that, because I only talk about wines that I love, that I want to drink, that I want to recommend to people. I'm not going to talk about something that I don't want to drink and put in people's glasses, because then they don't trust me. They don't think that, Brad, what are you talking about? I don't like this wine, and I can see you don't really like it. So why are you talking about it?
Yeah, and it's the communication. So it goes right the way from Barnes Wine Shop through various restaurants, etc. I don't need to be the communicator directly. Obviously, that goes via the sommelier, like you said, Dan, like going through the shop floor, whatever. But the purer the communication, the more direct and more seamless and more complete the story. So if you can complete that story at 100% all the way down the pipeline to the consumer, they're going to buy the wine, and they're hopefully going to love the wine, because you will have done your job perfectly. And if you lose little bits along the way, so what? But you've still got to get the story across and communicate perfectly. And I just do it in a number of different mediums. I mean, Brad, you're incredible at what you do, and you do it in very direct to camera, and you do it, without hiccups, etc., etc. And Dan, you do the same. I just do mine in various different mediums, and the mediums I enjoy the most.
We'll pay him later for that, Dan.
Yeah. That's going to be the clip for the show.
Also, but you obviously do radio, television. You obviously, you said you're part of the wine trade, but I know you've done it all. It's just mind-boggling to see what you've actually done in the trade.
Look, I mean, that's kind. I've been around for a long time, so you've got to try everything if you get the chance. It's all fluke as well. I've never been for a job interview apart from that one at the Barnes Wine Shop. Just people hear me banging on about wine and then sort of say, "Oh, yeah, that sounded interesting. Tell me more." And that's how I got my break, really. You'll know Fee Glover, who's now on Times Radio. She was sitting in the oyster bar at the Bibendum restaurant in Chelsea, where I was the buyer. I was just pouring. In fact, I was hosing a load of bottles after work one day with some mates. And she could hear me chatting and thought, "Oh, he sounds a bit interesting. Let's get him in for a test." And that was when she was doing GLR, so BBC's London FM station GLR, which I was addicted to anyway. And I had a weekly radio show on that for 3 or 4 years. And that was with, when Daddy Baker was around, Gideon Coe, and really, really cool people, Robert Elms. And people listened to that. And people listened to the radio live back then, not like today. And it was at 7:20 in the morning, tasting wine. And I managed to get the most extraordinary interviews with like world famous winemakers. And it became quite a sort of cult show. And so I didn't really have to do much advertising for it. People wanted to be featured. And I just sat there and, we clinked glasses and then let them talk for 10 minutes. And then they could bugger off and go and do some proper work. And I could just sit there and talk to Fee and Good and choose the next track. And that was the job, believe it or not.
Brilliant.
I'll take that.
And that led to Channel 4 offering me a job to present a TV series, which I did. I enjoyed doing that, sort of writing the show itself and presenting, which was something interesting. I'd done a little bit of telly. I'd done the sort of Richard and Judy and that sort of stuff. I'd done all that kind of daytime stuff, which I find quite interesting. Had a lot of help from Charles Metcalfe and Oz Clarke, who were very kind to me back in the day. And then I moved on to sort of, Anton Deck. I did a big Saturday night series with Anton Deck and stuff like that, which was very, very exciting, very nerve-wracking, but quite good. But that was in the 90s, lads. That was a very long time ago. When I felt comfortable on camera, and that's...
Well, you still look good, mate. I think you could definitely be on camera.
Not going to happen today.
Anton Deck in the 90s. I just feel like Anton Deck were 12 in the 90s.
No, well,
no. They're always as children in my eyes, like Biker Grove kids.
Honestly, yeah. They are the best, and that's why they won all the awards. But working with them, they couldn't be more helpful live. So they were guiding you and leading you with questions live.
And I think that's what a good host does, doesn't it? He leads you, guides you, makes you feel comfortable, and then you can just really talk about the subject that you love.
Yeah, well, I was training, young kids to taste wine blind. I had 10 minutes to teach them to taste wine blind, and they go head to head against each other. And it was brilliant fun. And then, that sort of led to a book offer. So I wrote a book. And wrote this book, and it became a #1 bestseller, literally Times #1 bestseller.
Brilliant.
That then led to the Daily Mail serializing the book. Again, I did nothing. I didn't pitch for any of this. weeks, a 4-week serialization of a wine book written by a Muppet. And then I wrote for the Mail for 22 years. So it was kind of weird. You can see how it sort of really was out of my control. I just held on with both hands and just said yes to everything.
You held on, and there you go. To be honest, Matthew, you must be writing this book, the memoirs. I can't wait to read that one day.
Brad, don't write me off too early. Yeah?
No, not at all. But
there's loads more to go. There's so much more to go.
No, there is loads more to go. But you see these people that have 72 autobiographies and they're 12.
Yeah, no, I've got a lot. I hope I've got a long way to go.
No, I think you have.
I'm 60 next year, so.
But I always tell you look good on it as well, though, mate. Every time I see you.
It's all the drinking. I'm marinated.
I'm going to dive in now to what you're famous for in the trade now. I think for me, every time I go try Australian wine, I think of you and I get your feedback and what should I be drinking? And you've got this series, 100 best Australian wines that you've been doing. When did that start and why has it become so integral to the wine trade? We were talking about it off camera, me and Dan, before. It's become part of the year for everyone in the trade.
Oh, thanks. It's 22 years old, so started in 2004. And I started because I was very conscious that Australia made great wine that we were not necessarily seeing over here. And yet Australia's reputation was very much for doing, kind of cheap wines in supermarkets, buy one, get one free, all that sort of stuff. And I knew that wasn't the real Australia. And so I sort of felt really compelled because I had a couple of Aussie mates. And way back in the Barnes era, I met people like Peter Lehman and Charlie Melton and some of these real heroes. And their names were on the label. You could actually meet the person whose name was on the label, meeting Vanya Cullen and meeting her mother, Di Cullen. It's like absolutely extraordinary. They're my superheroes. And I'd far rather meet them than film stars or whatever. And they wanted to meet me because I was a buyer. So they wanted to chat. They wanted to communicate with me. So I loved all of that. And I loved their honesty. I loved their skill. The fact that most epic Aussie winemakers have done at least 3 or 4 sessions overseas in great wineries. And that's not true of old world winemakers. They don't go around the world and get job zero and try and get some serious experience. They tend to stick on their home turf. And I think that makes for great wines. And so I thought that there was a little bit of an injustice going on. And I wanted to put it right. And I just made a bit of a fuss and did a big tasting at Australia House, invited all the buyers and all the sort of sommeliers, etc. And everybody turned up and that was it. I thought, got to keep doing this. And back then it was a piece of A4, double-sided, just 100 wines listed, no tasting notes, nothing. And now it's now 96 pages long. And it's a proper book. So whilst I've published lots of books, I've written many, 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 many more books that are now given away for free.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love doing it, and it's really involving. I get to meet so many people. I take the wines on a road show around the country. So I do 5 big events, lots of sommelier events, and just try and spread the word about great wine.
And so how do you go about selecting the wines, Matthew? It must be a really long process. There's so many amazing producers. Like, how do you go about picking and choosing?
Do you know what? It never stops. So I'm tasting every day anyway.
Yeah.
And if anything's Aussie and fantastic, it just goes onto a spreadsheet. And I scrape that spreadsheet together in a sort of timely manner once a year and fire off an email to all the importers saying, are any of these available over the next 6 months or so? Yes or no? And if it's a yes, that goes into contention for the 100 best. And 100 best is a Polaroid. It's literally what's good for the next couple of months, hopefully a year. And that's why a lot of the wines are either about to be released, just released, or kind of on the spot right now, and you've got to grab them while they're hot. And this year actually is over 300 wines mentioned in the book, the 100 lead wines, obviously. One leads the entry, and then anything that's good gets tucked into the note, sometimes very, very long tasting notes. But yeah, 300 wines for a country. It's not that many, but there are 300 epic wines that we have from Australia in the UK this year, 2026, and they're in the book, in my opinion.
Dan, put a link in the show notes so where people can see this.
I'll put multiple links after.
Thank you.
I have to ask you right now, Matthew, as well, like if people read the book and have seen the wines, what's a best kept secret for Australian wine still? What would you say people should be looking at, or a region people should be looking at?
Yeah, I think the overarching theme is the sort of the precision of the wines at extraordinarily affordable price points at all levels, yeah? So even and it blew people's minds. One of the most commented upon wines was Yalumba Y Series Pinot Grigio. That's a wine that many people would walk past in a tasting. And yet if you stop and taste it and then have the wherewithal to open up the book and find out that it's a tenner and probably less on offer, that theme is throughout the whole initiative, really, because it's such a massive place with so many microclimates. You have all of the great varieties that are familiar, and then you have a whole load that are unusual. I've got a Saperavi this year, first time ever. And then you go back to the classics. I think, Margaret River Chardonnay is probably essential in every single person's cellar in the world, and yet hardly anyone knows that. I mean, we're lucky in the UK because we've been familiar with the wines for longer than most countries. But you put your Burgundies on the table next to the Margaret River Chardonnays, do it blind, go on, test yourself, and then see what happens at the end.
I did it today at the Institute of Master of Wines, yeah, and it was blind.
Yeah, you at the Australia tasting. You at the MW tasting today,
yeah. Oh, did you?
Yeah, against Burgundies, against South Africans, against Napa and Sonoma, and they were outstanding. It's that beautiful sort of like tension and that flintiness and that minerality they have, but they hold on. It's a warm place still. People don't realise it is cooler, but it's still warmer than a lot of these areas. But it felt so much freshness and so alive.
But it's the diurnal difference. So it's that daytime temperature, which is always sunny. Of course, you got your shorts on, you got your t-shirt on, but at night time, often you put a jumper on. And it's that difference that fixes the acidity and gives the wine so much dynamism. They're not high in alcohol. Even the richest Chardonnays, when you look at the label, you go, God, it's only 13.0, and it tastes like a big fatty, but it's still, fit, still on its tiptoes, yeah?
Yeah.
And then that acidity is the battery pack. So it will age, and 10 years down the line, it still looks water white. And you're going, hang on, there's a typo on the label. It says it's 10 years old. Honestly, Burgundy can't do that.
I actually had a message from a buyer from a big supermarket, and he said to me, is Margaret River the greatest fine wine region outside of the old world?
Ooh, that's a big statement. For Chardonnay, it's certainly really, really challenging.
We're having a back and forth, and I think it's a really good article to write. So if anyone from a publication is listening, I can write that for you if you want.
Well done. But that's only one region. I mean, everybody goes, oh, God, I'm bored of Barossa and bored of mcilroy. Don't be. There's more skill, there's more artisan winemaking going on there. There is in, whole countries around the world. And then you go and taste your Chateauneuf de Pape's or some of the Côte-Rôties, which are massive these days. It's not called the roasted slope for nothing. And you've got to think about these, and tell the truth. Why do people like, come on, don't be a label shagger, and just say that it tastes great because the label tells you that it's famous. Tell the truth about the flavour.
Totally.
That's what I do.
MW study blind tasting last couple of years. Australia always tripped people up every single time. They'd always put it in France over and over again because they like that polish and that sheen and that like fruit, but it had that freshness and the acidity. And people were like, oh, this is really good French winemaking. It's like, it's not. It's
no way.
This is fantastic Australian stuff every time.
And I think, so that's why I love the wines in general. But then the second part is that the value is quite extraordinary. Most often than not, you're wrong by a tenner, if not more.
Oh, yeah.
And that's important because wine is not for collecting. Wine is for drinking.
Oh, I totally agree.
I couldn't agree more.
We totally agree.
It's a drink, you moron. Yeah? Buy it, drink it. You can keep some as well and, show it down the line, but drink it.
Yeah.
Drink it. It's a drink. It's a drink. It's booze. It's drink. It's yummy. It's fun. And people forget that. They go, oh, really noodly, really kind of, oh, crumbs. Yeah, I've got 150 cases of claret in my cellar. You go, but you're 65, mate. What are you going to do with all that? You're never going to get through it.
I spent a few years working for an auction business, and they were pretty much exclusively the people I spoke to. They were like, "Oh, I'd like to sell some wine because I'm not going to drink all this lot."
Yeah.
I'm like, you should have drunk it 20 years ago. It's not worth as much as you think it is now.
No.
It's baffling. Just the same conversations with people all the time of, I've got 120 bottles of wine that I need to shift because I'm just about to retire.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's literally ridiculous.
So we're saying, boys, just drink it.
Get it drunk, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the point is, and I said this only the other day, we're talking about buying on Primeur and doing this, that and the other. I said, well, how many Sunday lunches do you really host during the course of a year? Do you do 1 a month, 2 a month, maybe? I don't really know. So, and how many people, how big is the dining room table? Can you fit 4 or 6 or 8 people? Yeah. Just do the maths, yeah? And then how much serious red wine do you really need?
Yeah. How much do you actually need?
How much expensive do you really need? Is it 24 bottles or 36? Yeah. That's kind of the numbers we're talking about.
Hundreds, is it?
No, it's not hundreds. And then buy to drink.
Yes.
Go out to independent wine merchants and to the high street, of course, and buy stuff, take it out, open it, drink it, get excited, go back, say, hey, that was delicious. What's next? We're baffling how stupid people are. Just drink the stuff, have fun.
Drink, have fun. I'm going to segue, Matthew, because obviously you also have.
I know what's coming in this segue.
You know what's coming. In 2020, you launched Jukes Cordials, which is a non-alcoholic beverage that I enjoy. I've got a bottle here. I'm gonna open it now. But why, mate? Why did you do that?
I was absolutely infuriated by the concept of de-alcoholizing anything. It's heresy to make something and then kill it and then bring it back to life like some weird Frankenstein's monster, with sugar. What a great vehicle sugar is. And just don't do it. I thought I could make something that was palatable and foodie for your days off. And I don't drink every single day. I drink, probably half the week I'm on the gas and the other half I'm not. I'd like something adult. And what is there? Well, you can make a fake gin, or you can have a fake beer, or you can have a fake whiskey. You can have fake things. But I don't want fake things. I want real things. I found this recipe called the Haymaker's Punch from the sort of 1700s, 1800s online. And I fell in love with it immediately, because it's a terroir-specific, alcohol-free. It's kind of like the first sports drink, because the haymakers were fit lads and they were cutting the hay and they were sweaty and they needed to be sort of revitalized, but with a vinegar-based drink, which is great for their guts, great for their health, full of vitamins and minerals because it was made from leftover fruit and veg. And the only difference I do is I make a much more complicated recipe, not made from leftovers, made from the real thing.
And they are awesome. Like I've tried them a few times with you, Matthew, and I think it was a few years ago. I was at the Liberty tasting, and you were showcasing them, and I was like, these are great." And I probably was a bit like, "Oh my god, I couldn't believe I tried something that was non-alcoholic that tastes so good."
Well, thank you.
Like I'm a big fan. I know you're on the show, but I'm a big fan of these. I was chatting to Dan before. My friend, he's had to give up booze for health reasons, and I always take these round, and he's always over the moon.
Thank you.
When I bring them round, he's so happy, and he's like, "I don't miss wine because I've got something that's tasty and adds complexity and goes with food," and he's so happy.
The complexity is inbuilt in the drink you're drinking. That's my simplest drink. So Believe is my new one. There are still 7 ingredients in that. So how many wines have 7 different grape varieties? I mean, not many. But in my classic range, 1, 6, and 8, so they're the classics, they're the white, rosé, and red. There's upwards of 20 ingredients. So I'm literally layering flavor. It's like a washing line. I can literally hang all those flavors along it. And then they're going to go in your gob and your brain's going to fire up and you'll never be able to taste them all at the same time. And that's that as the flavor senesces on the palate, which we call the finish in the wine world, things pop up you didn't know were happening. You're like, what's happening? I'm drinking an alcohol-free drink, but I've just got sugar snap peas. I think someone's thrown a fennel bulb at me. What's going on? And they're all in there. And that's the beauty of it. And that's the skill of apple cider vinegar.
And I think it's a fantastic idea of yours to release them as cordials that you can mix with water or fizzy water or something like that.
Yeah, thank you.
That's just such a lovely idea. So you don't have this, everyone's subjective when it comes to cordial as well. Some people like more or less. And being able to sort of tailor the drink to the way that you like it is just, I thought it was a really great idea.
That was fundamental to the whole process because years and years ago, I had a wine bar on the Fulham Road called the Crescent, and it was just this awesome wine bar. And I remember Andrew Jefford reviewing it for the Standard, saying it's the only place in the world where you can drink DRC with a BLT. And I thought that was just number one. He's an awesome wine writer, but what an extraordinary expression.
He's got away with words.
Yeah. And the chaps that helped me design the interior, both at Royal College of Art at the time, Jason Osgerby and Ed Barber, so Jay and Ed, became great friends. That was their first commission. And they went on to, they made a table for me called the Loop table, which was they designed it for the basement of my wine bar, but it was actually the wrong sort of shape and everything. So I rejected it. I thought, nah, I don't want that. Of course, that's now in the Museum of Modern Art and it's in the Victoria and Albert Museum. It's the most important piece of 20th century furniture design. So yeah, that sums to my rejects. And I said to them, look, do you remember when I helped you out with your first ever job? Would you mind helping me out?
I pull in a favour.
Designing these. And that's, I knew I wanted small serves, but that's what they did for me. And I'm eternally grateful. And so everything flows from that initial design, which is this tiny little, you can put it in your pocket and it can make 2 nice drinks. And it's just that compact size, It's like Terence Conran saying one of his favorite designs was a paperclip. All the simplicity of the design is what makes them so exciting, I think, and then hopefully the flavor backs that up.
Matthew, I could sit and talk to you for hours, but I've got one more question before I let you go. We always ask the guests at the end a little question that me and Dan always think over. But for you, it's if all wine disappeared tomorrow and you could have one glass before it's all gone, what would that glass be?
That is a super question. While I write a lot about Australia, my largest annual report is my Piemonte report. It's a 200,000 word beast. So I think it's the largest report on Piemonte written in the world, certainly in English. And I really love the Nebbiolo grape. And I have multiple favorites, but I'll go for something that's a little bit perhaps left of center. And I'll champion my friends at Liberty because they help me with my Jukes drink. So Bruno Rocca, arguably the finest vineyard, or my favorite vineyard in Barbaresco, is Rabayar. And in 2020, the Reserva that they released got a perfect score from me. And I score everything. I don't publish my scores on much, but it got a perfect 20 out of 20. I don't score out of 100. And that's kind of rare, certainly rare for a Nebbiolo. And yet that wine, you can drink it now and it will blow your mind and you'll want to, cartwheel around the garden naked, or you can stick it in the cellar and forget about it for 20 years. And that is perfect balance.
Matthew, what a great way to finish.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, mate. It was really great to have you on. And the stories, we could talk for hours, but I know you're a busy man, and thanks for taking the time.
Pleasure. Nice to see you guys. Nice to chat. Thank you for inviting me.
Cheers, Matthew.
Thanks, Matthew. That was brilliant, Dan. What a good interview. He's such a great guy and done so much in the trade.
Yeah, and just thoroughly so passionate about Australia. His microphone was going off the charts when he was talking. He's shouting down the microphone, drink the Australian wine. So I quite enjoyed that with Matthew. That was nice, yeah.
It was great. So what else you been up to, mate?
It's bank holiday. So over Easter, just bits and bobs, hanging out by the coast. It was my partner's 40th birthday as well. So we went to a really cool restaurant in Norwich called the Corkscrew, which is the city where I live. And it's just a tiny restaurant. It's got 15 covers. And it's just this really lovely guy called Sam. And he cooks all the food and serves all the front of house on his own.
Amazing.
So he just does 15 people 3 nights a week. And that's it. That's his biz. And his parents were over for the bank holiday. So he had his dad in the kitchen washing the pots. And his mum was out front helping him pour the drinks. And so we were just there. And he changes the menu every day.
Oh, I love it.
He never cooks the same menu twice. And I said to Sam, what do you do the rest of the week? And at the end of the meal, he's like, well, I have a couple of days off and I'll go out foraging for ingredients on Tuesday, Wednesday. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm in the kitchen. And he takes Sunday, Monday off.
What a life.
Absolute dream. So that was nice. Yeah. if you're in Norwich, if you ever find yourself in Norfolk, go and find the corkscrew. But that's what I was up to. How about you?
I've been back to work today with the old trade. So I had a great tasting with Mel, a friend of yours, at the Institute of Master of Wine. We had a blind tasting of Margaret River wines against some of the world's best Chardonnays and best Cabs. Really great. I actually love blind tastings. I think it's a real leveler. I was the only press there. It was all Soms apart from me.
Oh yeah. Did you feel a bit out of your depth?
I didn't actually. Well, at the beginning I thought I would be, but actually in the end I wasn't as much as I thought I was. And everyone had a comment and had to say a piece about a few wines, and a couple of the Soms were like, love the way you explained that, and I got the two I said bang on, so they were pretty impressed. So I was pretty impressed with myself as well, mate.
Happy days,
Tap on the back for me.
But Matthew was saying the same thing about Australian wine being up there with some of the best, if not better, in his opinion, so it's quite a cool tasting.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it's incredible. Great to do some great wines. Yeah, I'm not going to give them all away. You saw on my Instagram. Tell you what wine really impressed everyone, though, apart from the Xanadus, the Lismore Chardonnay. A lot of the Soms thought this is Burgundy. It's old world. It's incredible, and they were all wrong. And I said it. I thought it was Margaret River again, but but they got it completely wrong. A lot of the Soms.
They were all in Burgundy, were they?
They were all in Burgundy. All of them.
That's the thing. Soms are lovely. They're a curious breed, but whenever they find something that's absolutely hands down delicious, they always just lump for the classics every time.
Yeah. And I knew it wasn't. But we actually asked for reviews as well, mate. We got a review.
We did.
We got a review. So I'm going to read it out. Thanks so much. Recall. Yes, I'm a binger. 5 stars. Love the first 4 and now having to drip feed the remainder. Great banter and so far, great guests. We hope we keep that up. Thoroughly enjoyable and thanks.
Love that. I love the reviews. And I think it was a 5-star as well.
It was a 5-star, mate. This was on Apple Podcasts. Obviously, other places are available for your podcast. Keep listening and thanks so much. And if you do have another review, I might read it out. And then Dan might call you out.
I might call you out because... So I'm doing all the back-end tech stuff for this podcast at the moment, and I'm keeping an eye on those reviews like a hawk. And we are 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and so only a handful of people are listening on Spotify. We've got 3 reviews, like starred reviews on Spotify so far, and we're only on 3.9, Brad, which has pained me, right? And I think that is 2 5-star reviews and 1 2-star review gets you to 3.9. I think it's some other wine trade podcast trying to sabotage. Yeah. I think it's like Lee Isaacs or Yanina Doyle or something just logging on.
Fergus, as he's making wine. He's like...
Fergus, yeah. So if it's any of you guys, stop it. But if it's not and you generally don't like the podcast, then that's fine.
But just leave a comment. Tell us why you don't like it, because I really would read it out. I really would. If you don't like it, read, and I'd love to call Dan a name or me a name, please.
Yeah, and we had a few comments on the Substack as well. So people are starting to get involved.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why we started the podcast. We put it on Substack so people could get involved. And I don't think Spotify and a few of these other podcast players have a place for you to comment. And so if you do want to leave us a note, just hop onto Apple Podcasts or hop onto the Substack, and that's where we sort of read everything and interact with people.
Yeah, and you can follow along on there, get involved, comment, talk to us. It's really great little place to chat, to have a group.
And I spend hours on the show notes, so I really hope people read them.
Comment on Dan's show notes, please.
Yeah, please.
Thanks, mate. We'll see you in a few weeks.
See you in a few weeks.
Thanks, Dan.